everybody, and welcome to the second video of the woven rug slash blanket that we started modeling in the first video. So this is basically what we created in the first video, and as you can see in this video, I've actually went ahead and imported one of the chairs that we modeled in one of our previous modeling tutorials. But in this case, the only reason why I have this chair is because I want to use it as a form for a size comparison between the actual size of our woven fabric and the chair. And also I would like to use this chair as an avatar in Marvelous Designer. So now the first thing that I'm going to do, and I'm going to notice, is that the way that I've modeled this woven fabric is way too big. So what I want to do here is, first things, I'm actually going to rotate this thing upwards at 90 degrees, like so, and then scale it down. I want to actually scale it down to about, when we get it to about the size that starts to look around nice. So maybe even smaller than this. So let's try something like, I think this is going to be okay. Alright, so when we create it to this size, what I'm going to do is go over here, and the measure, I'm actually going to see how big this thing is. Now it looks like it's 105 centimeters, so about 1 meter, and 93 centimeters this, so about a meter in size. So let's actually make this thing a tad bit bigger then. So this way around is 148, so about 1.5 meters. So this is a rather big piece. All right, so once we have this, I'm going to reset the X form and convert this to an editable poly, like so. And now what I want to do is go in my front viewport, put it here, like that. I'm going to rotate my chair, something like this. And now I want to, with my blanket selected, I want to export it out. So I'm going to go over here, export selected, turn it into an OBJ, and call it whatever you want. So knitted and avatar. Save. And also, when you're exporting stuff for Marvelous Designer, make sure that whatever you're seeing here is actually in the front viewport, if you want to see it from the front as the avatar, or from the side to the left. In this case, we want to see it from the front. So I'm going to click on export. Since this is a very large mesh, it takes just a bit of time to get everything exported out, but as soon as everything is done, you can just click it. Now export this chair as well. So export, again, export selected, chair avatar, and save it down as well. Alright, so now let's switch over to Marvelous Designer and create our base in there. Alright, so here we are inside Marvelous Designer. So the first thing that I want to do is go over to File, Import an OBJ. And from here I'm going to choose my knitted avatar, the one that we exported previously from Outer Max, and click Open. I'm going to load it up as an avatar. Check everything is okay. It's centimeters, that's fine. Click OK. And again, since it's a bigger element or a bigger mesh, it's going to take a bit of time to get it imported. And now with the newer versions of Marvelous Designer 7, when they import anything as an avatar, it will automatically add in some points that can be used for your character. But in this actually in this case we don't have a character, so we're probably going to just remove them. So as soon as this thing is finished, I'll be right back. And there we go. Just like I said, we have all of these bounding volumes in here that can be used for your character, but since we don't have a character, just select all of them, delete, 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 and close. Alright, so now we have our model in here as an avatar. The only reason why we want to have this thing in here is just so we have some idea of how big to make the pattern that we want to use this thing for. So I'm going to make it to about this size, because we want to have this thing cover up the entire size for our model. All right, there we go. So it's more or less the same size as what we have in here for the avatar, but since this is a very, very dense avatar, let's just slowly get to close to it, make sure it's covering up the whole thing. There we go. It's fine on the bottom, it's fine on the top. To the side we have enough of space. Let's just check the base. We need to move this thing. Let's check it out here. Oh, actually this can go a bit down. All right. Let's check this side. This side is fine. Top is fine. That means this thing now covers up the entirety of our woven fabric. All right, so that means that now we have this size. I can go to avatar and delete all scene props. So this is going to remove the avatar that we just imported. Or just you can go over here and delete all avatars. Now I'm going to go ahead and import again, but this time around I'm actually going to import the chair avatar. Again, go OK, and again we're going to get those bounding volumes, which we don't need, so go in, remove, and close. All right, now once we have this thing in, what I can do here is just move it around to a position where I am actually happy with how this thing is going to be. Now since I want to have this thing kind of fold in, what I'm going to do is put in hold down W and click here a few times and run the simulation down. It's going to cover up the chair like so. Now move these pins again. And Control W will remove those pins from it. There we go. Now I can just pull it until I get it to a point where I'm actually happy with how it folds in. Now I'm trying to get this thing to look more like it's been thrown on the actual chair, like that. So we have quite a few folds, and it looks more interesting. It's not just bland. There we go, something like this. Okay, so I'm gonna get some details at the bottom as well, and make sure it's not intersecting within our model like it was in this case. There we go, it's fine. All right, you can basically do whatever you want with it. I just want to have something to base this model on. All right, so now next thing I want to do is go to the file and export this thing, and just make sure you click export selected. I'm going to name this thing as morph. This is the 3D, and click save. And okay, I'm not going to change anything. Everything is going to be the same. And now here's the other thing that is going to make everything a lot easier for us. You can right click on whatever that you're working in Marvelous Designer and just go reset 3D arrangement and right click reset 2D arrangement. This is going to make it so it's planar to what it was. So again, now export selected, and call this morph 2D and save it down. Click OK. And with this, we are actually finished with our need for Marvelous Designer. So let's switch back over to 3ds Max. All right, now that we are back inside 3ds Max, what we want to do is import back our models that we just exported out of Marvelous Designer. First things, I want to import the Morph 3D. Click import. It's going to place it exactly where we had it in our Marvelous Designer scene. And now we want to import also the 2D. So Morph 2D, import, click OK. All right, awesome. So now the reason why we export this thing as a 2D shape and a 3D shape is that this is actually the same model, but in this case we have this thing morphed, and in this instance it's the plane. So if we want to get this shape here, all we got to do is go over in the modifier list and choose the morph or the morpher, pick object from scene, and now when we actually go ahead and make this thing do 100%, you can see that the morph is actually exactly the same as this piece. But I'm going to turn off the morph or remove the morph. And now I want to take my geometry that I have here, the knitted geometry, align it over here. So you just go over to align, click center to center. And now what we want to do is we want to link our geometry with our morpher here. So again, let's go ahead and do the morpher. Pick object from scene, put it here like that. And now we want to take our geometry, go over in the modifier list, and from here choose the skin wrap modifier. Now before we do this, it's a good idea to save, because this is a very heavy model that we have. There's a lot of geometry in it, and we're going to try to basically link it to this thing. So once we click on it, it's going to start calculating something, and it might take a few minutes. So I'm going to stop the video as soon as it starts, and I'll be back as soon as this thing is finished. All right, about 4 or 5 minutes later, this thing is finished. And now I'm going to select the base here and go over to the 100. Just move it down to here. And what happens is that since this thing is linked or wrapped onto it, we can actually now make this into a little poly, like so. And align it over here. So center to center. Click OK. Now I can hide the underlying geometry like so. And we have our woven geometry overlaid on top of our chair here. And there we go. That is the easiest way to get something like this. That's a very, very complex geometry to overlay on a chair like this, because if you try to simulate this thing inside 3ds Max, I think that there's a pretty good chance your computer might catch fire or explode. But Kidding aside, I want to show you one more thing before we actually finish. And for that, I'm actually going to put this thing to the side and unhide all. All right. I actually don't need both of these, so I'm going to delete. And let's say that you don't have this thing. You don't have this plane. The only thing that you have is an actual geometry that you might have created yourself, and you didn't bother exporting out anything for it, or you didn't export out the 2D shape, or maybe you downloaded it from the internet or bought it from somewhere. How do you get this thing to go and become that plane? Well, it's actually not that hard. All you got to do is just hold on Shift and make a copy of this thing, like so. Now, I'm going to open up my Unwrap UVW, and the first thing that you notice is that the size of this thing is humongous. So it's really not what we are looking for. We need to find a way to shrink this thing down. Easiest way to shrink it down would be with the inside the modifier list, you go down to UVW Xform. Now, when you're exporting things out of Marvelous Designer, what happens is the UVs for some reason get multiplied by 1000. So if we want to downgrade this thing, we need to go 0.001, 0.001, and 0.001. Once we do this, next thing you want to do is you go over and reset the Xform and right click and convert into a little poly. Now, next step here is to put on an actual Unwrap UVW map. And when you open it up right now, you're going to see that the size is much more manageable. You can even get it back to or pack it as a custom one, like so. And now we need to find a way to get to transfer this UV unwrap into the actual geometry. Well, in order to do that, we are actually going to use the text tools. So where you need to install text tools. If you don't know how to install it, check out my previous video and you can check it out over there. So once you have text tool installed, well, here's the other problem. Whenever you are opening up text tool, if you whatever you have selected is going to have the UVs screwed up, and sometimes it can even crash max, which I think is something that's happening right now. All right, I was wrong, it did not crash. So now when we have this thing selected, there's this button over here inside our text tools that says swap UVs with XYZ channel. So when we click on this thing, what is going to happen is all of that geometry is going to be flattened out. So as you can see here, I'm going to straighten this thing up like so. I get this thing. When I go over in my modifier list now, in the morph, I can choose the pick object from scene, click over here, and now it is going to get this form, but in this case I have to actually rotate it 90 degrees. There we go. So now you know exactly how to get this thing to go from this shape back to this shape, or vice versa, how to go from this shape to get a flat surface on which you can then take this thing, and there we go. When you overlay it, you get that same exact look. And with this, we are finished with this short video tutorial about how to make woven covers or blankets or pretty much anything that has a complex geometry and you would like to have it on any sort of a model. Well, I hope you guys had fun and you managed to learn some new tricks. If you have any questions, leave them below. I will meet you in the comment section of the video. If you enjoyed the video, then please click the like button, and if you're not subscribed, now would be a great time to do so. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye for now.